Hello, everybody, and welcome into another preview show here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, I guess, second time,
Yeah,
Mateo Giuliano. Mateo, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. Enjoyed a lot of really good and entertaining hockey today. How are you doing?
Doing good. I unfortunately couldn't watch any of the games except for the last period of the U.S. Sweden game, but apparently that was the best period. So and overtime, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was a good well, from what I saw, a great day of hockey. I wish I could
It
watch more of
was.
it, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
no,
was
I mean,
good.
I don't know how much more to ask for. Three overtime games out of the four, right? And I even the Germany Slovakia game, it was probably too early for a lot of people to wake up and want to watch. So I mean, three overtime games, and they're all pretty entertaining. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna now do a preview of the semifinals coming up, and there's of course the teams that won today are in it: Canada, Finland, and and U.S. and Slovakia. And the only one we really didn't predict was we said Germany. You said Germany was going to upset.
Yeah, I
Didn't
thought,
happen.
I thought the German NHLers would come to play a little bit more than they did today. They were, I watched that game. I watched pretty much all four aside from Finland, which kind of overlapped. I watched the third period of Finland and overtime as well. But yeah, that Germany game, I really disappointing for me with how the NHLers played for Germany. Draisaitl was almost pretty much a non-factor. I know he got an
Mhm.
assist on one of the goals, but not what I thought, and what I said in the last in our last video was that the Slovak depth was a lot better than the German depth, and they would have needed the NHLers to push them over the edge, and the depth came through for Slovakia, and the NHLers didn't show up to play for Germany, so we got Slovakia in the semifinals taking on the US now.
Yeah, we said David Pasternak. Well, he scored in the game,
Well,
so
yeah, yeah, that's true too. That's true too.
so we got that to say that he was going to
Yeah,
step up, and he scored in the game. Although it wasn't, it was the only blowout of the day. Really, everything else was
yeah,
overtime.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll start with Canada and Finland because that's the first semifinal, and it's a. I mean, this matchup is going to be interesting. I think of Canada, of course, we talked about them being pretty dominant throughout. They're having some, injury issues. Sidney Crosby is going to get an MRI today, or not today, but whenever. He's going to get an MRI, and hopefully he'll be able to play. It's a day break, so we'll see how that all goes. Apparently Nathan McKinnon is playing banged up. There's a lot of guys that are hurt, playing hurt, and it's going to be interesting to see if that is a factor against Finland, who, I mean, they've been really good throughout this tournament, and they always, like we said, they always seem to come to play, and they're able to win games. And I mean, yes, it was a close game. It could have gone either way, but now it's Canada Finland, and I think Canada's in for a tough game.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Like you were talking about Crosby there. I think Pierre LeBrun tweeted just before we came on, or a little bit before we came on, that Canada should more know about, or should know more about his injury on Thursday. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see, which kind of makes the predictions a little bit difficult. I think Sid is
Yeah.
such an important part, and I think we saw what happens when this line doesn't have Crosby in it. Today, when he left the game, the balance of the lineup really seemed to go out the window a little bit, and it took a little bit for a lot of the guys who were playing depth roles to really step up and perform. And eventually, we saw it with Nick Suzuki scoring a ridiculous deflection off
Yeah.
of a shot that was going like 3 feet wide, and he tips it back in between Dostal's legs and ties the game. And then Marner scored in overtime. But yeah, I think for this matchup, you're 100% right. We're gonna get a tight matchup. I think um, Finland. I think Switzerland put up a really good fight against Finland. I mean, I watched the third period in overtime, and then I went back and watched the highlights too. It seemed like Switzerland got their chances, and I think if anything, Finland might be a little bit disappointed with UC Saros on the first goal. Mishandles the puck behind the net. Seems like he caught a rut trying to get back into his crease, fell over, and it was an empty net for Switzerland. But he recovered well, made some really nice stops throughout, and like we said this in our quarterfinal predictions that that game would be really low scoring because Finland has the ability to really suffocate teams, and I think
Mhm.
that's what we might be in for here today or on Friday when Canada takes on Finland. I think Canada faced their first bit of adversity in this tournament today obviously down late. I think there was just like Canada ties it was just under 5 minutes ago, and then Czechia has a breakaway Martiniches, and Bennington comes up big. But I think honestly, I think it's good that Canada gets a little bit of some adversity here, because I think any team that wins tournaments, I guess you could say, aside from 2014, Canada usually faces a little bit of adversity. I mean, 2010, obviously Canada looks like they're going to win in regulation. The U.S. scores late and they have to go to overtime when Crosby scores a golden goal. So I don't think it's the worst thing for Canada. What does concern me is obviously, like we were talking about Crosby. Like I said, balance kind of went out the window when he was gone. So it's something to look out for. Even if he plays, I don't know what percentage he would be at. Like it looked pretty bad today. So that'll be something to watch, and it's obviously a big factor. But going into like what I'm looking for in this game, I think it's a lot of just Canada's depth show up again. I was really disappointed with the play of Nick Suzuki and Sam Reinhart and Brandon Hagel. And then obviously Suzuki comes up huge and kind of misbeat my own words a little bit there. I was kind of losing it throughout the game. But he scores a big goal, and I think the depth is really the only thing I don't think we saw from Canada kind of come through. I think a lot of the production was being carried by the top six throughout the first couple of games or the first or 3 games, and I don't think it matters much when you win 5-0 and you win as handily as they did with Czechia in game 1, and then they beat Switzerland pretty handily in game 2, and then France is kind of a whatever game, like you're gonna win big in that game, and I think it showed today when the balance went out the window and Canada kind of turned into a one-line team with Celebrini, McKinnon, and McDavid. They kind of struggled, and it took a little bit, but I think the depth players started to find their groove. I'm still looking for some X factors in this game for Canada will be, can guys like Sam Reinhart finally start to chip in a little bit, especially if Sid's gone, they're going to need someone else to start producing for them. Can Suzuki continue to play well like he did at the near the end of that game? I think he's suited better as a center. I know they were playing him on the wing. If Crosby isn't available, I wonder if I'd hope that John Cooper decides to play him as a third line center. I think that's his best role. And can we get something from Brendan Hagel, who's obviously a fantastic player for Tampa, but has really not found his footing in this tournament at all? It'll also be interesting to see Sam Bennett. Does he get into the lineup? I'm not sure. I think he's banged up. I'm not sure if he's banged up or it was just a healthy scratch. And obviously, does Josh Morrissey get back into the lineup for Canada, who missed today's game and has been injured since Switzerland? So we're going to have to wait and see on that. So those are some of the X factors I'm looking for Canada. On the Finnish side, I think a lot of the same stuff as I said for against Switzerland. They're just have to play a little bit better than they did. Mm-hmm. I think is UC Soros going to be able to rise to the occasion, come up big. He, like I said, struggled like bad first goal, but after that, it looked like he really settled into the game and played well. Anton Lundell played today, which is one of the X factors we talked about going into the quarterfinal matchup. And if he plays, it just adds much more depth down the middle to this Finnish team. So can they continue to shut down? Czechia did a good job of it. Can they shut down a lot of Canada's lineup and reduce them to that one-line team? Because it was really frustrating for a while there. And Finland also faced some adversity today too. They were frustrated. I think watching that third period, obviously this game's physical right now. All these games are physical, but it looked like Finland was throwing like, you watch these hockey games and NHLers get a little bit frustrated. They start kind of throwing these hits just to like try to do something. I felt like Finland was getting a little frustrated near the end. Obviously, they don't break through until Aho scores with just under 7 minutes left in the game, I believe. And then the floodgates kind of start to open a little bit for Finland. So can Finland keep their tight system, reduce the amount of chances Canada gets off the rush? I think that's big. Canada's such a quick team that if you're able to shut down the rush play, I think you set yourself up for a lot of success. Or they're able to shut them down on the rush, and will they be able to score? I think Canada has been a little bit careless with the puck at times. I think we saw it a lot today, and they're going to need a little bit more offense than they got today against Switzerland. Only 31 shots on goal against Switzerland. They're going to need a little bit more and try to capitalize on these chances. You're going to need Aho to step up like he did again today. A lot of your veterans like Granlund can heist it and provide some offense from the blue line. So those are kind of the things that I'm looking out for. Obviously, goaltending. structure, and can they actually get the goal scoring on the Finnish side? And then, like I said, for Canada, will Crosby play? If not, can the depth players on Canada like Reinhardt and Hagel find a way to contribute? Can Suzuki continue his play? So yeah, anything you're looking out for in that game?
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of it. I think one thing about Finland you always have to be careful of is that they can shut it down. They can play a really gritty. I mean, not like Canada can't play that way too. They got players that can do it. But if Finland shuts down their speed, like you mentioned with the rush game, Canada will be struggling to generate stuff, even though they have tons of stars and stuff like that. So Finland's always a tough team whenever you play against them, and they have played really well against Canada in the past as well. So it's like it's maybe a little concerning that they might be able to come out with it, but we'll see. And the thing is, those injuries are going to be a factor for sure. If Crosby doesn't play, there's going to be other guys going to have to come in and step up their game. Which, I mean, all the guys can do it. They're top line players on their teams.
I mean, the Conn Smythe winner was scratched today, right? Like, like that. That's and one other quick thing. I think something that we're seeing in this tournament. I know the ice dimensions were a big talking point before the tournament, and they've kind of gone away because the hockey's been so fantastic. But I do think teams are finding a little bit more success clocking up the neutral zone just because of how tight the neutral zone really is. Is the offensive zones are regular dimensions, and they took away all the length in the neutral zone, and you can really see it with how close the face-off dots are to the blue lines. And I think we're seeing teams having a little bit of an easier time clogging up the neutral zone. So that's something to look out for Finland. But do we want predictions? We're doing predictions like we did last time, right?
Yeah, we'll do a prediction on maybe we'll do them after we do the two.
Sounds good.
And we'll finish it
unveil
off
the finals and the bronze medal game.
Yeah, so there we go.
Sounds good.
All right, let's move to the other one, and that just of course was just determined, and that's the US going against Slovakia. This matchup's an interesting one too because of how well Slovakia has played throughout this tournament, and I don't know if anyone expected them to be in this position, especially with Sweden in there. I mean, Sweden. We could do a whole podcast on talking about how their tournament wasn't very good at all. So I mean, the US ends up winning in overtime. Quinn Hughes scoring the goal, and that kind of really did a dagger into me because if he was still with the Canucks, I'd be really stoked. I'm not really right now, but
Hey, you had Quinn Hughes, I had Mitch, so we both got one.
There you go. That's very true. So yeah, this is gonna be interesting because Slovakia, we talked about their depth, we talked about their star Slafkovsky didn't score in the game today, which is very interesting. He's been scoring a lot throughout this tournament. So what do you think about this matchup? Is this more favorable to the US that they're drawing Slovakia, or could this be an upset, I guess?
Yeah, I think the way that the seeding worked out for this for the draw, I think the US was going to be kind of blessed with a pretty easy matchup regardless if they made it through, because it was going to be either Germany or Slovakia. So I believe so. I just would have changed the matchups a bit depending on what happened. But anyways, the way the draw worked out, I think it's a really favorable draw for Slovakia, or sorry, for the USA. I think Slovakia, to be honest, like they've been a great story, really fun to watch, great goaltending. Like you said, Slavkovsky's been unbelievable. Dalibor Dvorsky, the St. Louis Blues, has been unbelievable, and he did end up scoring today against Germany. But I think what we saw in the Germany versus Slovakia game is why I think it's gonna be tough for Slovakia to compete. I think we saw the stars kind of almost cancel each other out in that Slovakia Germany game, and then it kind of just turned into whose depth players are going to perform better. And that was always going to be trouble for Germany because Slovakia had, like we said at the start of the show, Slovakia had better depth. But I think the problem is for Slovakia in this matchup is just the US team is so deep. They're going to be by far the best or the toughest test that Slovakia has faced in this tournament. I think it'll be the toughest test that Slavkovsky's seen at the Olympics, obviously. I mean, this US team is stacked, and when they medaled in the last Olympics, no at NHLers, I think it's going to be tough for Slovakia to cope. I think even if Slavkovsky and Dvorsky could kind of cancel out the top American stars, and I don't even think they could. I think the upper echelon American stars. I know Germany had Draisaitl, but there's just so many more of them that are at that level on the
Mhm.
US. I think Slavkovsky and the top Slovak players will struggle to cope with that. And then even if they are able to do a masterful job and kind of keep Matthews in check, keep Eichel in check, keep the top players in the US in check, the problem is that depth on that US team is, I mean, it's right there with Canada for the deepest forward core in the
Mhm.
tournament. I guess Sweden would have been up there before they lost today too. So I think honestly, Slovakia is just gonna be overwhelmed. I think it's just it's a tough matchup when you compare roster to roster. And the other problem is that we talked about in the quarterfinals that the great equalizer is always great goaltending.
Mhm.
And if Slovakia gets great goaltending, my problem is that Connor Hellebuyck has looked as dialed in as he has all year, or like we've ever seen him, regardless of the kind of regardless of the reputation that he has for maybe struggling when in the brightest moments
Mhm.
or in the hardest moments. But I think he's looked so dialed in that it's not our area of concern anymore. And I think honestly, I think the Slovakia is just so outmatched. I do think this might be a little bit of a blowout here, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, though. I mean, Slovakia has really been a real surprise
Yeah,
throughout this tournament. So it's like eh, on paper, probably, but
yeah,
you never know. That's why they play the game. So we'll see how it all goes. I agree. I think the U.S. is a bit more, not a bit, but they have a lot more star power
yeah.
towards the bottom of their lineup. As well. I mean, when you can throw out, Tage Thompson in a lesser role and
Jack
he's
Hughes, yeah,
Jack
like
Hughes, all these guys.
yeah,
I mean, they're star players, not just really good. They're star players in the NHL. So
yeah,
it's like it's going to be hard because I think Slovakia only has maybe a few guys that can match up. Like, well, we
yeah,
mentioned two of them there.
yeah.
And we'll see if any of them, Slavkovsky comes to play and like he usually does. I mean, the U.S. if they shut him down, I think they're in trouble. So we'll see how that
Yeah,
goes.
Slovakia has done a good job keeping the puck out of the end this tournament, with the exception of that Sweden game that they played. Only allowing one to Finland. I know that Italy got two on them, but Germany got two on them here. They haven't allowed a lot of goals, and I know a lot of it's been goaltending. But if they're able to keep a tight system and maybe just try to keep this game as close as
Mm,
possible for as long as possible, I think that's kind of the goal for them. I just if you get behind early and then you have to start opening up for offense, I think that's where they're going to get into trouble. And I think we saw Germany struggle with that today, where they got behind early, then they have to kind of cheat a little bit, and Slovakia
mm.
took advantage. So that's where I am a little bit nervous for Slovakia.
Yeah, we'll see. I think this one could be a blowout. It might not be close,
Yeah.
but we'll see. All right, predictions, and this one we kind of already said, but
Well, yeah.
what do you got? Is it US? But I mean, we'll get a score here too. So
Okay.
what
Yeah.
do you got?
I'm going to go. I'll say 4-1 US. Um, I think like for all the reasons I said, I think Slovakia is just overmatched, and I know these European teams come to play and they play a little bit, they fight or they punch a bit above their weight, but I think when it comes to this much of a difference in the rosters, it's gonna be tough to compete, and I think the US will take this one and punch their ticket to the gold medal game.
All right. What about Canada and Finland?
So this one is a lot tougher, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about all the where Canada might struggle, what Finland needs to do to keep Canada in check. Um, I It's tough if Crosby's there. I 100% think Canada would win, but even without Crosby, or Crosby at maybe 70%, even less than that, I think Canada still wins, but it's gonna be a tight game, and I think we're gonna have to have another one of the games that we saw today against Czechia, where it kind of comes down to the wire, and it might look a little bit bleak at times, but I think Canada still pulls through.
I'm going to predict overtime for this one. I think there's an overtime in store here. I think Canada does come away with it. I think they've got a little bit more of that again, that star power game breakers in their lineup. Although Finland has a few of them as well.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go with that. I mean, the goaltending between the two teams. I mean, we mentioned Saros being maybe a bit iffy at times, and I mean, Binnington's looked pretty good throughout the whole
Yeah.
tournament. So
I just like it's been weird to me. Like I saw some people kind of getting on him about today's performance, but I didn't think he could do anything about any of the 3 goals. And he made some huge stops down the stretch. So I mean, I've been happy with Binnington so far. One other X factor for Finland I forgot to mention, does Mikko Rantanen break through? Like I keep waiting
mm,
on him to
yeah.
have one of these games. So if he does, he could be a game wrecker. So keep an eye out for Mikko Rantanen, like always.
Yeah, that's a guy that I mean, he just needs one chance. So
Yeah.
and we've seen it quite a
Yeah,
bit in the
exactly.
past year. So we'll
Yeah.
see. So if our predictions go, it'll be a Canada US gold
The
medal
matchup
game.
everyone wanted.
So and Finland and Slovakia for the bronze. So yeah, we'll have another prediction preview show for the gold and bronze medal games coming up. There's going to be day break between the
Yeah.
two, I believe.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I think one thing about our predictions, the bronze medal game, I liked when 2 European teams get a chance to play for bronze because I think they take it a little bit more seriously than
yeah,
Canada and the US do. So I always liked when we did the European matchups for bronze. That intensity is great, and I think the North American teams have a little bit of a tendency to kind of punt on the game because it's just part of our culture. It's like it's first or
yeah,
nothing, and then
right.
in Europe, it's a lot more of how high can we finish? Can we improve? So I think
Yeah,
it's better when we get European teams in the bronze medal games.
for sure. I agree with that. I think especially for Slovakia because they weren't really expected to even be in
Mhm.
a medal position.
Yeah,
I don't think coming into the Olympics. I don't think anyone
I
was
wouldn't have picked
predicting
them.
them to. I wouldn't have picked
Yeah,
them to
yeah,
have a medal.
yeah.
I mean, they could end up with nothing too, but to be in the position to have one is pretty big for Slovakia, and they're a team it was like it's not that long ago that they were in real jeopardy of not being an Olympic country, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
it's good.
everyone's talking about those halak quotes in 2014 when they lost to Slovenia, and it's saying that like
Mhm.
we have nobody coming, like there's no young players, like it's looking bleak, and now here they are. I mean, you have a lot of young talent. There's, I believe, one Slovak is projected to go top 15 in this upcoming draft.
Mhm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you have a
So
young crop coming through.
they do, and of course, led by Slavkovsky, who's really young
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
and they've got a lot of great young talent, and that's why you don't sleep on them. And
Mhm,
I mean, in the World Juniors, they've been maybe a little less lately. It's been
mhm.
Czechia kind of taken over a bit, but yeah, it's cool that they're able to be in this position now, being a power, and now back to being a power, I guess. All right. Well, I will look forward to the semifinals and then the medal games. But thanks, Mateo, for coming on as always for doing these preview shows. Make sure checking out everythingtalkers.com. We got takeaways after every game. We got your predictions piece is
Yeah, I'm
should be
working on it
out.
right
And
now.
there you go.
Yeah,
Should be out by the time you're watching this, I'm thinking.
yeah, yeah.
So take a look at that and also all of our other coverage throughout the website. And yeah, we'll have fun in the next round here. But until our next video, we will see you next time.